Throughout his 2024 presidential campaign, Donald promised that he was going to end the war between Russia and Ukraine on day one. Not day one of his administration, but day one of the transition. That is, the day after the election, which, by the way, would have been both impossible and illegal, but people apparently will believe anything. Now, we're 10 months into his hideous failure of a presidency, and the guy who used to promise he'd fix everything on day one has finally offered up a peace proposal. Hope you're sitting down. It's terrible. Donald's plan may as well have been written by Putin, and my money is on the fact that it probably was. As the New York Times points out, the Trump regime presented Ukraine with a 28-point peace proposal. This would end the war that Russia started by illegally invading a sovereign nation and its democratically elected government. And despite that, the plan would force Ukraine to surrender vast amounts of land that the Russian aggressors has stolen from them. The Trump regime has hashed out the proposal with Russia excluding Ukraine from the discussions entirely from almost the beginning. Kyiv would be forced to give Russia the Donbas region, Crimea, and other occupied territories. The framework also requires Ukraine to cap the size of its military and give up long-range weapons, even though, again, worth repeating, Ukraine was invaded and Russia was the invader. On top of that, The Independent reports that the Trump regime warned Ukraine to agree to these terms by Thursday, November 27th. Otherwise, the United States will cut the country's access to United States weapons and intelligence. To say this is grotesque is an understatement, but this is where this has been tending. Donald has been in Putin's pocket since the 1980s. There is no way he's going to stand up for Ukraine against Vladimir Putin. No way at all, because Donald is a weak-kneed loser who, for reasons that are both annoying and somewhat complicated, looks up to authoritarians and murderous dictators like Vladimir Putin. Hopefully, Ukraine is not going to go along with this, nor should it, and the European Union is going to need to get heavily involved in light of this obscenity. After receiving the offer, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky addressed his country. Here's an excerpt from that speech.
Right now, Ukraine may find itself facing a very difficult choice. Either loss of dignity or risk of losing a key partner. Either difficult 28 points or an extremely hard winter. The hardest and further risks. Life without freedom, without dignity, without justice. And that we should believe the one who has already attacked twice. They will expect an answer from us. Although, in fact, I already gave it on May 20th, 2019, when taking the oath of allegiance to Ukraine, I said in particular, I, Volodymyr Zelensky, elected by the will of the people as President of Ukraine, pledge with all my deeds to defend the sovereignty and independence of Ukraine, to uphold the rights and freedoms of citizens, to observe the Constitution and laws of Ukraine, to fulfill my duties in the interests of all compatriots, to raise the authority of Ukraine in the world. For me, this is not a protocol formality. For a checkmark, this is an oath. And every day, I remain faithful to every word of it.
Unlike Donald, Volodymyr Zelensky does understand things like dignity and honor and loyalty to one's oath. If only America had stood by Ukraine in a sufficient way since the very beginning, we wouldn't be having this conversation. The Trump regime's proposal has drawn scrutiny from within the United States, including from Republican senators. It's also been met with criticism, justifiably, from our allies around the world. According to PBS over the weekend at a security gathering in Canada, GOP Senator Mark Rounds said, quote, This administration was not responsible for this release in its current form. They want to utilize it as a starting point. It looked more like it was written in Russian to begin with, unquote. Mark Rounds is a Republican. And then Senator Angus King, independent from Maine, said that the deal, quote, was not the administration's plan, but was instead a wish list of the Russians, unquote. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who maybe should have read the agreement before saying something this ridiculous, said, quote, the peace proposal was authored by the U.S. It is offered as a strong framework for ongoing negotiations. It is based on input from the Russian side, but it was also based on previous and ongoing input from Ukraine. Not really. Ukraine has been sidelined at every step of the way, and this so-called agreement speaks to Putin's hold on Donald and Donald's obsequiousness when it comes to Vladimir Putin. It also speaks to the chaos and ineptitude of the Trump regime and its so-called leadership. These people are in over their heads. Marco Rubio has no business being Secretary of State, and it goes without saying that Donald has no business being within a billion light years of the Oval Office. Our international partners have expressed doubts. According to Reuters, European Union Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas said, quote, we all want this war to end, but how it ends matters. Russia has no legal right whatsoever to any concessions from the country it invaded. This is a very dangerous moment for all, unquote. That's right. How it ends matters greatly, and how it ends must reflect how it began, with an illegal invasion by Russia of a sovereign democratic nation. What also matters in the calculations about how this war ends is that Ukraine is not just fighting for its own freedom and sovereignty, it is fighting for the future of liberal Western democracy. We all owe Ukraine a serious debt of gratitude, especially those countries like the United States of America that are benefiting from the courage, steadfastness, and unwillingness to cave of the Ukrainian people. But before we go on, authoritarianism is on the rise, both at home and abroad. So please like and share this video. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Mary Trump Media channel. Thank you. Naturally, Donald sycophants are out there pushing his very pro-Putin peace deal. Reporters asked White House Secretary Caroline Leavitt about the proposal and day ending in Y. She lied about it. Take a look.
Ukraine, you said this is a good plan. So according to our sources, this proposal demands major concessions from Ukraine and doesn't demand much from Russia. So was Russia involved in drafting
Your
this?
understanding is wrong. Have you read the full plan? You haven't.
Sources said.
Yes.
So if you can give details,
You've read reporting from one side of the war, and so I want you to understand that the administration has talked equally with both sides. You have seen President Trump engage directly with both President Putin and President Zelensky. Likewise, his national security team has as well. In fact, Special Envoy Witkoff and Secretary Rubio met with some of the Ukrainians just in the past week to discuss this very plan. And so just like you saw with respect to Israel and Gaza, we are hearing out both sides of this war to understand what can you commit to end the war. And that's ultimately how we are going to get to an agreeable solution. That's what the president has directed of his team. I know there's a lot of criticism out there and a lot of doubters, but I would just remind you of the historic success that this president and his team accomplished in the Middle East. We believe that is possible with Russia and Ukraine, and we're hoping and working very hard to achieve that.
Yeah, here's the thing though. Both sides don't have an equal say here, or shouldn't. Russia should get nothing. It's really that simple. And, of course, it should give back every square foot of territory it has stolen from the Ukrainian people. It should give back every resource it has stolen. It should have to pay them for all the damage that has been done by this devastating war. It should return all of the children that have been kidnapped from Ukraine. Sadly, it cannot return the lives of those Russia murdered. I have an idea. I would like to, whenever Caroline Levitt is speaking, I would like to change the sound of her voice to nails on a chalkboard, because that would be easier to take than her lying condescension. Please take a second and like and share this video. Be awesome if you could subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, please follow us and give the show a 5-star rating, because it really does help other people find our content. Thanks.